All right, guys. Today I'm joined by Brooke Sheppard, founder and CEO of Mason Interactive, a performance marketing agency founded in 2008 across New York, place offices in Charlotte and LA. Brooke, thanks so much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure to have you. You have an insane amount of experience in the space. I'm really excited to dive in.
Chris, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So you're very welcome. And kind of jumping straight into things, would you mind maybe giving us a 3,000-foot overview of your journey to like how you got to where you're at today?
Well, the agency is 16, 17 years old, and it's been a state of constant reinvention. The way I started the agency and how I got there is a lot of failures up front when I was younger, a lot of thinking about what the commonality was for those failures, and the answer was me. It's not that my boss at CVS MarketWatch wasn't difficult, and it's not that my boss at Newsmax wasn't difficult, but really I was the problem. And so it took me a little bit of self-reflection to realize that and get started. And then I got a job at an agency and I loved that job and I was good at it. And I loved the clients and I loved the people. And that agency was bought and they decided to stop being an agency and become a technology platform. That was 20 years ago. So I decided to carry on doing what I found I love doing and start my own agency.
Love that. Given that you've been in the space for a while now and you scaled your agency successfully, what do you feel like was the one growth lever that made the biggest difference for you as you were scaling?
The one growth lever that sacrificing profit for growth occasionally. And we talk to clients about that a lot too. Like a lot of, and it's changing with interest rates being flat for the last year, but down slightly. Most clients have revenue goals. Not all clients and few clients have new customer goals. And so new customers generally cost more than old customers, right? If you have an existing customer, you can remarket to them, you can email them. A new customer costs more generally. I understand that. Understanding that with my business partners to grow Mason has been key, to say that there are times when I'm going to sacrifice profit. I'm going to make less money. I'm investing in the future. I'm going to take what could be profits. I'm going to put them into hiring sales teams or starting a creative arm 3 years ago or launching an affiliate division. Like really being able to say, all right, it's not just about maximizing profit as a corporation. It's about building long-term value. And that means occasionally doing things that have a bad ROI or ROAS today in service of future growth, which is totally a thing I preach to my clients.
Got it. It makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned investing in sales teams. I know a lot of agency owners that have had horror stories when it comes to handing off sales, hiring sales reps. I'm curious, what are some of the challenges you had and how were you able to overcome those?
People have horror stories. I want to know some good horror stories. I'll bet I could beat them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think one of the things was understanding the difference between hunters and gatherers. And there's a place for both. I think early on I was doing all the sales when we started. It was just me. I was doing all the sales and all the optimizations and all the everything, all the bookkeeping. And then when it came time and we were around 5 people to hire a salesperson, I think I didn't understand necessarily because I just did everything. I didn't understand that maybe a valuable, good, smart, motivated colleague, employee might not be comfortable doing everything. They might want to decide if they're a hunter or a gatherer, meaning are they going to get their own leads or work the leads to come in? And having tension there about like, well, I haven't closed any deals. Well, I know you haven't closed any deals. Why not? Well, because there are no leads came in. Well, go get the leads. Like, and having like, it's not a fair thing to get mad at someone for if they're not comfortable being the kind of person who gets their own leads. So deciding the difference between those two. And then honestly, having a fair commission structure for people that motivates them and treats them fairly for if they close deals. So understanding the difference between those different skill sets, because some people are marketers / salespeople and some people are just inbound lead people. And that's great. It takes all kinds. Understanding that difference and then coming up with a good commission structure has been pretty key for us to scale those teams.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that. So, Brooke, I'm curious. You mentioned before we jumped on here that your agency is growing and you're scaling and you're also doing some acquisitions. Is that one of your primary growth channels right now, or how do you look at growing in the near future? And also, feel free if we can't talk about anything, feel free
No,
to
I can
like
talk about all of
totally.
it. I will obscure some numbers for you in the audience. So, okay, so we want to grow 33% this year, right? And I'll talk about acquisitions. We want to grow 33% independent of acquisitions this year. And for that to happen, I know that I need to close because I know where we are. I know historically what our churn ratio is. So like it's a knowable number. It's not, you can look it up in our QuickBooks. So if we start here, we're going to end up here because some people are going to go out of business or part as friends or whatever it is. And so I know how many sales I need, how many new customers I need to get, given our average customer size to be flat year over year and then grow. It's a knowable number. I know those numbers. And then we had to figure out what our closing ratio is to get a new customer at our average customer value. And then I need to figure out how many leads I need to get them. And that's it. And then I need to decide where I'm going to get the leads from. And it's trade shows and it's speaking engagements and it's referrals and it's cold emails and it's our own advertising. It's a basket of things that all work together to drive inquiries. And that's really what I'm consumed with most during the day, along with some operation things. We're going to do a reorg soon. That's going to be a lot of fun and drive a lot of value for our clients, I think. The acquisitions is fun too, because as I mentioned before we got on, I'm very open about this. I am a New York person. I smell like a New York person. I sound like a New York person, and I'm happy with that. But I know that's not everyone's cup of tea. So we were able to identify that I'm not really that. I said earlier, I don't speak LA as well as I could. Okay. So we acquired an agency in LA because they were able to speak LA better than us, and they've been a great value. I mean, it's just little cultural differences. I actually think London is closer culturally to New York than LA is in a whole lot of ways. So knowing that we have a blind spot around the whole sales team is in New York, we're all New Yorkers, it sounds a certain way. Doing an acquisition was a way to obviate that and grow our skill set. That said, I'm also looking at 2 other acquisitions right now that are eating up my time in a really fun way. It's fun to be thinking about acquisitions because I've been running this agency for 17 years. I've been doing digital advertising for 24 years. There's always more to learn. I'm not done growing and learning, but I kind of know how to launch a fashion brand or a school's campaign. I'm learning and I'm getting better, but I know what the basics are. And acquiring a whole new business is a different challenge and a different skill set. And it's really a fun thing to learn and get better at. It's fun.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love how open and transparent you are about those things. But in order for you to have the time and the mental capacity to focus on acquisitions, you have to have done a lot of things right in the agency, structuring, organization wise, team wise. Can you speak on some of those things?
I think people that run agencies work a lot and don't sleep a lot, I think is one thing that, so it, it has to get done. It has to get done. I'm really proud to say that we had people that have worked here for all 17 years of the business. We had people that have left and come back, that have gone to other jobs. We have an SEO director who's super awesome. And she left at one point because she had a family issue and her situation was just a lot better with a job near her office, her home. I totally respected that. And I begged her to come back the whole time, and she did. So being able to retain people for a long time that you respect and appreciate and are not afraid to check me and tell me when I'm being wrong has been really key to that. This is not a solo practice. I'm trying to make myself obsolete. I mean that to the growth of the company. So having people around that I trust has been the key part of that.
That makes sense. And it's something that I'm noticing where, especially when you're investing in salespeople, when you're investing in your team member, it sounds like you actually truly care about them and their well-being and making sure that they're compensated and that they want to stick with you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There are conflicts and not everyone loves everyone, but yes, one tries to. I'm proud that I've been able to retain people for a long time.
Yeah. And I'm sure your clients see that as well, because as you mentioned, churn is a metric that agency owners are always looking at. And so is client retention, right? On the opposite side of that.
Yeah. We track we track employee churn, average employee salary, client churn, client growth by all of our teams and verticals. Yeah. We have to track all that stuff. We wouldn't be doing our job. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I'm curious, how are you guys leveraging AI internally or with clients in order to stay competitive?
That's really funny. A few years ago, clients were saying, you can't use AI with any of our SEO work. I'm not paying you for that. I think this was looked at by ChatGPT. Can't do it. And now clients are really leaning into it. There's a few things there. I think that maybe clients are not aware of how much AI is already built into Meta and Google and programmatic platforms. We've been using it for years anyway. It's just built in for lookalike audiences. The other part of it is we're fully leveraging all the tools we can to increase our productivity. What I find interesting about that is, we're using Claude, we're using Chat, we're using everything, we're using Gemini. What I find interesting about that is there was an article in The Economist recently, and it was also in the Journal. It had slightly different takes on it. But the take on it was, where is the productivity boom from AI? Like the AI boom has really paid off if you're NVIDIA or if you're a hardware maker. It hasn't necessarily paid off for the rest of the economy yet. And why not? My thesis about that, and I'm not an economist, my thesis about that is that, so we're leveraging all these things, but so is all the competition, right? And so we're not in competition with the AI, although maybe that'll change, but we're in competition with these other agencies using AI. And an example of that for anyone who's listening is like part of our sales. I mentioned earlier, we have a sales goal and we have channels and it's emails and it's trade shows and it's advertising and it's referrals and it's organic. Another part of that is RFPs. We do RFPs and we get asked to do RFPs. So we used to do, I'm going to make up a number, 4 RFPs a year. Now with different AIs, we can do, I don't know, 20 RFPs a year, right? I'm just obscuring the numbers for obvious reasons. But it's not that we're the only ones that upped our velocity from 4 to 20. Everyone else did too, right? So we're all competing against one another with this higher velocity. So it's fully integrated into our systems across a bunch of different ways, but it's everyone else is using it too. I do think that one really specific way to use it for agencies is to do some things that people can't do, is to look at creative over a long time frame. Like if you ask any one of our account managers here what ad did best in their call last week, they're pretty much going to know. They're pretty much going to know whether it was offer A or offer B or layout A or layout Z. We're going to know those things. What they're not going to know is over the course of 5 years and thousands or hundreds of thousands of pieces of creative, what the commonalities were to the successful ads and the less successful ads. And AI has been a great specific use for that, is like, because no human has the capacity to analyze in a statistically rigorous way, or at least no one I know has the ability to analyze hundreds of thousands of ads in a statistically rigorous way. I can help with that specifically. So that's a specific thing we're doing.
That's a really interesting, good little nugget there. So I'm curious what areas of life that you've had to master on this journey.
I haven't mastered anything.
I'm sure there's got to be something. I mean, you're running a very successful agency. You have team members that have stuck with you.
I think I try to self-evaluate a lot and not be afraid of who I am. I am solidly a Gen X person, and you can't treat Gen Zs like their Gen X peers. It won't work, and they wouldn't treat me the way they treat their peers. So constantly self-evaluating about that and realizing like the tactics I used 5 years ago to manage people aren't going to work anymore, and the tactics we used for advertising 6 months ago don't work anymore. Like things are constantly changing. So I think the only thing and there's some people in the office that might be listening to me and laughing at this. I think trying to be humble about what you don't know is the biggest thing. That said, I wish I spent more time playing guitar outside of work and I'd like to work a little, I think I'd squeeze a little more music making into my day. But in terms of the work journey, it's been about trying to be humble and understand, like, you have to adapt. This isn't working. I'll give you a good example of that. For years and years, our prices rose. A thumbs up in Riverside. For years and years, we would slowly raise our prices when we could because the market would bear it, and it was fine. It was a competitive price that we were in. We weren't overcharging. We were allowed to go up a little bit as we got bigger and more prestigious. And there was a time a couple of years ago, which certainly corresponded with interest rates, when we did a trade show, and my sales team was awash with leads. Chris, we've never had so many leads. We were dairy of these leads. And we closed not one of them to this trade show because we'd gone into them with pricing that was active 6 months earlier, when interest rates were different, and all of a sudden the market had shifted very quickly, and we had to come down all of our prices. This is a couple of years ago now, 4 years ago, and the data had to tell us, like, yeah, that's not working anymore. You have to cut your price now because everyone else has too. So just like being aware of that and looking at that data and being totally on top of it is really key. Because if I'd stuck to the guns, like, no, we're worth 2 pennies, not 1 penny, we would have no new clients at that point in time. And things change. The market is shifting back. People are appreciating quality more now than just lowest price. So things go back and forth.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of agency owners will die on the sword of, here's what we're worth. How do you look at finding or meeting the companies where they're at in terms of pricing? Do you change terms? Do you change the amount of services? Do you change the package? Or how do you make it feasible for them, but also profitable for you?
Yeah, that's totally fair. There's a few things there. And I've talked about before in YouTube and other places. So we have a rate card. It's on our website. You can look it up. We're not hiding our prices. Does anyone pay the rate card? Plenty of people do. What happens actually, though, is that things change. So if someone says to us, if a startup comes to us or a school comes to us, a brand new school has never done advertising, comes to our ecosystem, and they say, I have a revenue shortfall of $1 million, given our average student tuition of $70,000. I'm going to need to get 14 students to make up that revenue shortfall. Let's go. And I'll say, great, here's our starter package for higher education. We have a crawl, walk, and a run. Here they are, like in 3 scenarios. That's on our website. It's the same for everyone. People don't pay more or less depending on who they are. So give that to someone and they'll say, crawl, walk, run. They'll say, okay, I want the middle one, walk, for the crawl price, or I want the run for the walk price. What can you do? And to answer your question, how do you meet people where they are? So my staff are operationalized at an hourly rate. So if someone wants to pay us less, it's not the case that we manufacture a widget and with greater manufacturing velocity, our widgets cost less and we can pass those savings on to clients. That's not how it works. That's not the mechanics of it. In fact, it's probably the opposite. If you want someone who's really good, who's been here a long time, they're probably going to cost more. So we can't give a discount. It doesn't, because the only way a discount would work would be that someone valuable like Jonathan, who's here in the office still, would say, oh, I choose to work for less money for this client. And maybe for a charity and maybe for something close to home, we would do that, right? That like to ask for a discount is to say, Jonathan, you're going to get paid less on this next account. So I'm not going to do that to him. He doesn't want to do that, barring some different cases. So what we can do is we can do less. So we can say, all right, you want the run package for the walk price. I can't do that, but let's see what we can cut out. Maybe you don't need a monthly business review with senior leadership. Cool, price just went down. So we're not charging them less for the same service. We're reducing the price by removing things that they don't need. And that's the way we can work with someone to meet them where they are price wise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And then naturally my next question is, once they're in the door, how do you move them up? How do you get them to run?
Well, forget getting them up. Here's the other thing about it. So I'll try to get there, but like it's part and parcel of the last question. The last answer is, hey, Brooke, I've been working with your agency for the last 5 years and I've really enjoyed it. But I have a problem, which is great. I love a client tells me to have a problem. I'm much more likely to solve the problem if you tell me what the problem is. If you don't tell me, I might solve it. Much better chance if you tell me what the problem is. So same with me, by the way, with a client. Like I have absolutely clients where I said, I can't do this. So client will say, well, I really enjoyed working with you, but I've noticed recently there's more junior people in my account. There used to be 3 senior people and now there's 1 senior person and 4 junior people. And I'll say, yeah. And they'll say, well, why? And I'll say, well, your fee hasn't changed in the last 5 years. So you're paying the same fee and everyone who works for you is on my team is making more money or else they would have quit. So the only way to make that work mathematically is either they can do the work at a faster pace, which is going to lead to errors, or to not replace, but to supplement some of the senior people with more junior people so that the hourly cost we have in servicing a client stays the same, right? So I can't have a bunch of different people making a very high cost per hour. If you're paying this cost per hour, I can have one person paying much higher than the cost per hour you're paying me if they're supplemented by some more junior people or AI that's helping bring that average cost down. And that's why we rotate people on accounts. It's unless someone's growing at a pace where their fees growing tremendously, but most clients don't want to pay more each year. I get it. Most employees do want to make more each year. I get it. And the only way to make those two things work is to supplement the staff that's there with more junior people who will turn into senior people eventually, and eventually will be super awesome. But right now we're doing specific, repeatable tasks under the guidance of the more senior people who are still driving the strategy. Does that track?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely tracks. And then, so then that conversation is naturally flowing like, well, if you want more senior people, here's what that looks like.
It's rare that conversation happens, I have to say. I'd be curious if you've ever had that conversation. Have you had that conversation with people? Like, oh, you want more senior people? Great, pay more. I don't think that'd go well.
No, it was just, it came to mind there. And then, so is it additional services then? Or do you kind of just keep clients and kind of keep them where they're at and just
No, we want to grow. No, we want to grow clients. The clients I love are ones that want to grow. Coca-Cola is not walking in our door. And we do work with Casio, we do work with Shiseido, and we do work with Marimekko and Italy and these global multinational brands. But we also work with mom and pops who have a dream. And as long as they're realistic about it, I think it's great. I love working with all of them. Most of our media buying contracts are percentages spend, which not all clients like. But it makes a lot of sense from our point of view because when you spend more money on advertising, the bets get more important, the algorithms get more complex. You need more senior people. And the way we can work on that as well, you used to pay us 10% of 100,000. Now you're going to pay us 10% of 200,000. And in exchange for that, I can put better people with more tenure on your account. Most people understand that. A lot of smaller businesses don't understand that. And I feel like aggrieved by that somehow, but that's pretty standard in our space to charge a percentage of spend for things. Creative fees are different. Creative fees are usually negotiated on a per project basis, on a per shoot basis. And SEO is usually a flat fee, but yeah. Does that answer it?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks for that. Bro. Getting ready to wrap up here. What is one piece of advice that you would give for other agency owners that are trying to break that, 7-figure threshold?
Work harder. I know that's not a sexy answer, but it's a competitive business. The business is inherently limited in its because we can cost more than doing it in-house, but we can't cost a lot more than doing it in-house, or you would do it in-house, right? So if we're charging a slight premium, what are we offering? We're offering technology, we're offering expertise, we're offering data modeling, we're offering a look across 60 plus clients and billions of dollars of advertisements. But we had advantages that allow us to have a slight markup. But it's inherently limited as an industry. You can't charge 2x what it costs to do it in-house, or no one would ever hire you. So the answer is to work harder, to network harder, put more hours in, and to really show your clients that you really care. I have not found anyone, and also to focus. Like, I think focusing on verticals matters a lot. I think that in my life, the people that I know that are the most successful at their agencies or their other jobs, the people that I know that are most successful, and this might be a self-fulfilling prophecy, but are the ones that have been doing one thing the longest. And again, it's self-fulfilling because if they weren't doing well at it, maybe they wouldn't keep doing it. But I can observe the people I know that have the most outwardly pleasing, successful lifestyles are the ones who've been really focusing on one thing. And people who are working between 4 different things. I've got a crypto consultancy over here, and I've got an agency over here, and I'm an Olympic surfer over here. Those people, in my experience, they might have great fulfilling lives and they might be super happy, but they tend not to be as successful as people that focus on one thing. So that'd be my advice, is to work harder. I said I was Gen X, and to focus on a specific thing.
Got it. Thanks so much for sharing. Where can people find out more about you, your agency, or anything that we spoke about here today?
I appreciate that. MasonInteractive.com is our website. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Brooke Sheppard, MasonInteractive.com. Any form you fill out on our website will get to me eventually.
Awesome. Brooke, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course.